It's January 29th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with North Korea's submarine-launched cruise missiles. The North says the regime fired its strategic cruise missiles Bulhwasar 3-31 from a submarine, with leader Kim Jong-un overseeing the test fire. The U.S. warned it will do what it has to do to make sure that it can protect itself and its allies. 3 U.S. troops were killed and 25 were injured in a drone attack on a base in northeast Jordan, marking the first time U.S. troops have been killed by enemy fire since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war. President Joe Biden says his country will continue to fight terrorism and hold the perpetrators to account. South Korea last year saw record overseas sales of instant rice products like frozen kimbap on the back of rising popularity and demand for Korean food globally. Over half of the products went to the U.S., followed by Vietnam, the EU, and Japan. North Korea fired its newest Bulhwasar 3-31 strategic cruise missiles again over the weekend, but this time from a submarine. The leader, Kim Jong-un, was at the site, stressing the importance of the Navy's nuclear armament. Our Choi Min-jung has our top story this morning.
North Korea is believed to have fired several submarine-launched cruise missiles off its eastern coast on Sunday under the supervision of the regime's leader, Kim Jong-un. State-run newspaper The Nodongshinmun reported Monday that the Bulhwasar 3-31 strategic cruise missiles were launched from a submarine. North Korea had test-fired this cruise missile for the very first time just 4 days before Sunday's launch. The missile is believed to be nuclear-capable. Kim Jong-un, who oversaw the launch, reportedly stressed that the Navy's nuclear armament is an urgent national agenda. According to the Nodongshinmun, the missiles launched on Sunday flew for 7,421 and 7,445 seconds before hitting preset island targets in the East Sea. Given that 2 flight times were reported, it appears that 2 missiles were fired. More details, including flight distances, were not disclosed. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said Sunday that it had detected several cruise missiles at around 8 a.m. over waters near North Korea's eastern port city of Sinpo, the location of the regime's largest submarine base. The last time Pyongyang fired SLCMs near Sinpo was in March last year. Seoul's military said it has been closely coordinating with the U.S. to monitor additional signs of provocations by the North. Meanwhile, a U.S. State Department spokesperson reportedly urged Pyongyang to refrain from further, quote, threatening activity and called on the regime to engage in dialogue. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Now, these cruise missiles do not violate UN Security Council resolutions, yet they pose a great threat. But how much and to what extent? We're joined by Dr. Bruce Bennett this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
The missiles fired in the East Coast on Sunday came just 4 days after the North test-fired new strategic cruise missiles, Bulhwasar 3-31 from the West Coast. What's the North's intentions this time?
Well, apparently the missiles fired last week were fired from a ground launcher. These missiles were reportedly fired from a submarine. So you fire from a ground launcher to test the missile initially. Then you want to make sure it will fly from the submarine. So this was a second level of test for them in their development process.
Then the next question is, how much of a threat would they be, the ones fired from a submarine?
Well, the answer is 2 or 3 of them, depending upon what will fit on the submarine, would be a fairly serious threat in a surprise case. Much after that, probably before they can reload, that submarine would die in a war-fighting situation. So yes, a few of those missiles would be a serious threat. But in the long term, beyond that, not a lot. Submarines just aren't going, North Korean submarines just aren't going to survive in a conflict.
I see. The North claims the missiles were launched from a submarine. They were the Bulhwasar 3-31. They are the same as the ones that they fired last week, just firing them from a submarine, right?
As far as we know, that's the case. Now, you never know with North Korea because we don't have access to what's really being fired, but that's what they've claimed.
Then why is North Korea firing cruise missiles lately? I mean, they've been launching lots of ballistic missiles. Is the North trying to develop all kinds of missiles? Is that what they're trying to do here?
Well, certainly they're trying to develop all kinds of missiles. The answer to your question is we don't know for sure. The North isn't telling us. But what we do know is the North is sending a lot of ballistic missiles to Russia to use in Ukraine. North Korea may not have produced as many of the theater missiles as they've been implying. And as a result, they may be sending much of their inventories that they already have if they hadn't produced as much as they've been implying they did. North Korea wants it to appear that there are a wide range of threats that they could pose against South Korea and the United States so that they're intimidating, so that they coerce us, they deter us from taking action against them. That diversity of threat is what they're trying to impress upon us. But if they haven't made many of each of these kinds of missiles, not clear that it's all that much of a threat.
Right. Dr. Bennett, it's believed that the North will continue to carry out provocations up until the April general elections here in South Korea. Will such action by the North affect the situations on the Korean Peninsula? What's your take on this?
Well, I think we also have to recognize that when North Korea does any missile test, it's really doing it for political purposes as well, both internal North Korean politics to prove that Kim Jong-un is a capable leader able to accomplish things, and for external politics to put pressure on South Korea and the U.S. to deter our actions and so forth. So absolutely, the regime is going to continue testing up through the elections. They want to try and make it difficult for President Yoon's party to take strong results into the elections. And so they're going to do that to try to influence the elections. We can expect it beyond that. They're also going to try and influence the American election in November. How much effect they're going to have in each case is unknown, but certainly that seems to be what they're trying to do.
Well, Dr. Bennett, North Korea has been firing ballistic missiles and now cruise missiles. What other provocations can we be concerned of then?
Oh, that's the excellent question right now. There's a lot of discussion in the community about North Korea actually carrying out some limited attacks. You know, as the North Korean number of nuclear weapons increase, they gain an effect called a nuclear shadow. That is, when they carry out a conventional attack, it's U.S. and South Korea are sometimes reluctant to respond for fear that that will lead to escalation that could lead to a nuclear attack against us. So they're hoping that they can go and make even more extreme provocations, including conventional attacks. They could be special forces attacks. They could be attacks with missiles. A wide variety of things are possible. And I suspect that that's the direction Kim is headed. One of the patterns for North Korea is they escalate their provocations over time. They kind of are conditioning us to get used to more and more severe provocations.
Right. It's almost like we're getting used to those missile launches. All right, Dr. Bennett, thank you so much for your insights. As always, we appreciate it.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. Thank you.
For the first time in Gaza, 3 U.S. soldiers were killed and dozens were injured after a drone struck U.S. forces stationed in northeastern Jordan near the Syrian border on Sunday. Washington blamed Iran-backed groups for the deadly attack. Lee Seung-ja has more.
U.S. officials say 3 U.S. servicemen were killed after an unmanned aerial drone launched an attack against U.S. forces stationed in northeastern Jordan near the Syrian border. During the attack, dozens of others were injured, with many being evaluated for possible traumatic brain injury. An umbrella organization of hardline Iran-backed militant groups, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, claimed responsibility for the attack. According to U.S. President Joe Biden, Washington is still gathering information on the attack, but said that it was carried out by radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. In a statement released by the White House, Biden vowed to carry on fighting against terrorism and said the U.S. will hold all those involved responsible. Since the outbreak of war in Gaza on October 7th last year, U.S. forces have come under attack more than 150 times by Iran-backed groups in the Middle East, leading to at least 70 injuries prior to Sunday's attack. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister's office said on Sunday that a four-way meeting between the U.S., Israel, Qatar, and Egypt took place in Europe to discuss a potential deal to release all Israeli hostages held by Hamas in exchange for a 2-month-long ceasefire. The meeting was later confirmed to have been held in Paris and was described by the Prime Minister's office as being constructive. According to U.S. officials speaking to the Associated Press on Saturday, the hostage deal would be carried out in 2 phases. In the first phase, fighting would stop to allow for the remaining women, elderly, and wounded hostages to be released by the militant group. Israel and Hamas would then work out details during the first 30 days of the pause for the second phase, where Israeli soldiers and civilian men would be released. Israel says 132 hostages remain in captivity, including 2 children. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Climate activists in France dumped soup at one of the most priceless artworks, Mona Lisa, in Paris, while French farmers continued protests demanding better pay and living conditions. Our Lee Si-ho reports.
Video footage shows 2 women hurling soup at the protective glass in front of the iconic Mona Lisa painting in Paris' Louvre Museum on Sunday. Before being led away by security guards, they stood in front of the painting and shouted, "What is more important, art or the right to a healthy and durable diet? And farmers are dying on the job." They are activists representing an organization called Food Response, which shared a statement saying the protest aims to draw attention to the need to protect the environment and sources of food. This came more than a week into protests from French farmers who are demanding better pay and living conditions, and just hours before the French government deployed a large number of security forces around Paris as the angry farmers prepared to mount a siege on the French capital. The farmers are demanding better purchase prices for produce by supermarket and industrial buyers, changes to complex environmental regulations, and the phasing out of a tax break on diesel for farm equipment. Throughout France, farmers' unions have set up roadblocks to increase pressure on the government.
And with all the health and climate issues, the lack of respect for agriculture and farmers, we desire to be able to live with dignity from our profession, and the government will have to listen to us and hear us.
In response, the government announced a series of measures on Friday which included an end to diesel fuel taxes for farm vehicles. France would also remain opposed to the European Union signing a free trade deal with the Mercosur trade group, of which Latin American countries are part, which may result in what farmers say is unfair competition for French farmers. Despite the concessions, major farmers' unions say their protests will continue as the government's plan doesn't go far enough. Lee Si-ho, Arirang News.
The U.S. and China will hold a meeting to discuss fentanyl this week, aimed at curbing the flow of illicit drugs into America. According to Reuters, citing a senior U.S. official on Sunday, the first U.S.-China working group meeting on fentanyl precursor chemicals will be held on Tuesday in Beijing, a follow-up to the summit between U.S. President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in November. The U.S. official added that China is believed to have started action against Chinese precursor chemical companies, and that the U.S. will pursue law enforcement actions and impose controls on those precursors. The U.S. has said that China is the primary source of the precursor chemicals used for fentanyl by drug cartels and cartels in Mexico. China denies the claim. With the popularity of Korean food on the rise, instant rice products have seen record sales overseas. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs and the Korea Agro-Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation on Monday, exports of processed food, rice foods last year came to over $270 million, the highest recorded figure to date. The amount was a 9.5% jump from the previous year. Exports of processed rice products have increased every year since 2015, with the popularity of products like instant rice, frozen kimbap, and tteokbokki. By country, the U.S. accounted for more than half of the total at over $114 million. Now, over in Gangwon, where young athletes are showing off their skills and talent at the 2024 Gangwon Winter Youth Olympics. Not only are they enjoying winter spirit, but they are also making their own histories at the Games. Our Song Yujin has their stories.
Jonathan Lurimi's silver medal at Gangwon 2024 is not just his first Olympic medal. It's also Tunisia's first Winter Olympic medal. The 17-year-old bobsledder is one of 3 athletes writing history at the 2024 Gangwon Youth Winter Olympic Games. Tunisia is among the 5 countries making their Winter Olympic debuts.
Oh, it's a crazy feeling. Unbelievable. I didn't think it was possible to go this far when I started with the sport. And now I hope being an idol for them to try winter sports so that it can be bigger in Tunisia.
Jonathan's journey with bobsleigh began through the Pyeongchang 2018 Legacy Foundation's New Horizons Academy.
Athletes from countries that don't really have winters can't really give winter sports a try. But the Olympics should be something everyone can enjoy. Projects like the New Horizon Academy help these athletes learn winter sports and pursue their dreams. Later, they could become Winter Olympic ambassadors in their own countries.
Established in 2019, the Pyeongchang 2018 Legacy Foundation aims to preserve competition venues and teach Olympic values to the next generation. In 2022, its New Horizons Academy invited some 100 athletes from 27 countries, mainly from Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia, to Korea.
We actually had them try every different winter sport. And every time they did a sport, we kind of measured their performances. And then after the 2-week program, we invited them back in the winter, but this time we designated sports for them.
Training camps were held every summer and winter leading up to the Gangwon 2024 qualification period last year. In December, 25 athletes, including Jonathan, qualified for the Games. Also among them is Thai bobsledder Agnes Kampeol, who won silver at the women's monobob this time. Now, with less than a week remaining until the Games draw to a close, the project has set its sights on a bigger goal.
Starting next month, some of these kids, some of these young athletes, we're going to start training for Milano 2026.
That, of course, includes Jonathan.
Of course, I want to be in the big Olympics, the Milano Cortina, hopefully. I'm going to try everything that I can, work hard to qualify for that.
Helping these athletes realize their dreams, the New Horizons Academy shows that nothing is impossible.
I believe. So you have to believe too, and do what you can do, work hard, and you will achieve what you can.
First question is about
송유진, 아리랑 뉴스, 평창.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn over to stories from around the world. We begin today in Turkey, where 2 masked gunmen attacked a Roman Catholic church on Sunday during morning service, killing 1 person. Following the morning attack in the capital, Istanbul, Turkey's interior minister confirmed later in the day that the 2 suspects have since been captured. The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility, posting on Telegram on Sunday that 2 of its fighters carried out the attack and fled to safety. The Turkish government has not yet confirmed the motive. The shooting took place at the Church of Santa Maria, located at the Bosphorus on the European side of Istanbul. As seen on the CCTV footage released by Turkish media, the 2 gunmen followed a man who had just entered during the Sunday Mass at around 11:40 a.m. and shot him, which fatally wounded the victim. The assailants were seen calmly leaving the scene. The Vatican offered support as the Pope expressed closeness to the community of Santa Maria Church in his weekly prayer. Now moving over to Iran, where the state-run IRNA news agency reported on Sunday that Tehran has successfully launched 3 satellites into space. Sunday's launch also reportedly saw the successful use of Iran's previously failed Simorgh rocket. Iran state TV showed the nighttime launch at the Imam Khomeini spaceport in rural Semnan province. The payload included 3 satellites, Mahda, Kayhan-2 and Hatef-1. The agency described Mahda as the research satellite, while the Kayhan and Hatef were nanosatellites for global positioning and communication. After 5 failed launches for the Simorgh program, the space rocket reportedly saw its first successful liftoff. The West has been expressing concerns over Iran's space program for its potential contribution to Tehran's ballistic missile capabilities. UN sanctions in relation to Iran's ballistic missile program expired October last year. Next, in finance news, the billionaire chairman and CEO of the global luxury goods company LVMH, Bernard Arnault, has once again become the world's richest man. LVMH's share prices shot up on Friday as the news of strong sales hit the trading floors. According to Forbes' real-time billionaires list, Arnault and his family's net worth increased to $207.8 billion after the $23.6 billion increase on Friday, beating Tesla CEO Elon Musk, whose net worth remains at $204.5 billion. Arnault's 5 children all work at LVMH, where 2 of his sons were recently appointed to the company's board. In sports news, 22-year-old Italian Yannick Sinner pulled off a comeback in the men's tennis final against world number 3 Russian Daniil Medvedev to win the 2024 Australian Open. The world number 4 beat Medvedev 3-2, having come back from being 2 sets down. Sinner had put an end to world number 1 Novak Djokovic's 33-match winning streak in the semi-final. Sinner is the first Italian to win an Australian Open. He is also the youngest man to win the Australian Open since Djokovic in 2008.
Good morning. Today looks to be a repeat of yesterday's conditions, mostly temperature-wise. Then we can look forward to an even warmer afternoon on Tuesday. But of course, it's that ultra-fine dust that will be sweeping most central parts of Korea. Jeollado and Gyeongsangdo provinces will also see dust levels rising at night. And unfortunately, tomorrow looks to be a dusty one for most parts of Korea. Meanwhile, many areas of Gangwon province are still dealing with freezing temperatures under cold wave alerts this morning, but athletes should notice a big rise in highs this afternoon under bright skies. Afternoon highs in Seoul top out at 4 degrees. Busan and Jeju get up to 9 degrees Celsius under sunny skies nationwide today. But East Coast regions are under a dry weather advisory. Then we can expect warmer than average temperatures this week with frequent rain or snow in the forecast for southern provinces. So please take the weather into account and plan accordingly this week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Tuesday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
강원 동계 청소년 올림픽 대회.
시작입니다. 하나 스탠바이. 하나 스타트. 하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's January 29th here in Seoul. I'm Shin Yoon, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Choi Ji-hee.
Happy Monday.
Good morning. And Choi Hyun-woo.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Fubao, the giant panda that's loved by many here in South Korea, will be returned to China in April. Everland theme park, where Fubao and her family are located, is trying its best to fill the vacancy by naturally breeding another endangered panda species, the red panda. Also known as the lesser panda, this cuddly creature is a popular animal many come to see when visiting Everland. There's currently only 6 of them in the country. Everland says it will try to breed red pandas naturally within the next 2 months. And have you ever heard of solar max? It's when solar flares or eruptions on the sun's surface intensify to their maximum amount. The level of solar activity will reach its largest in 2 decades, sending off more solar flares, painting the sky with more aurora lights, making this year's anticipated solar eclipse much more dynamic. At the same time, experts caution that we may see more radio blackouts, satellite disruption, and higher levels of solar radiation when on an airplane. And despite heading quickly into a super-age society, most Koreans don't seem to be ready for this big demographic shift. An insurance company surveyed some 1,900 adults aged 19 to 69 and found that the majority weren't even ready for senior care. To be exact, 7 out of 10 said they haven't been preparing any insurance plans or looking into health benefit packages for when they reach retirement age, mainly because they didn't have an idea of what type of senior care options there are and what the financial cost would be. The survey also found that many were worried about having to send their aging family members to a care center or provide them with a licensed caregiver. Despite concerns regarding whether or not an individual or their family member would require professional health care, most Koreans seemingly don't seem to be preparing for that. Now, here at the studio, what do you think about this news story? And are you preparing for senior care or for your family senior care? And given that you're still in your very early 20s, Hyun-woo, this story might seem distant to you, but do you find the need to be preparing in advance?
I do think the need is necessary. Like I said, I am in my early 20s right now, so healthcare and thinking about retirement plans is kind of out of the picture right now. But looking at my parents, they're getting pretty close to their retirement age, and I do think that healthcare and the retirement plans are definitely something that they need to think of in the future. One thing that I do need to mention is that it's not that, like, out of the 7 out of 10 who have not planned for their retirement plans, it's not because they just haven't thought of it. It's just more of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the financials have struck our families and a lot of families in Korea so hard that they just don't really have the time to plan for their retirement plans.
I think some people might say it might be a myopic perspective given the fact that we're living in such a super aging society and aging seems to be norm. But given the financial situation we're in with high inflation and record food prices and everything, it's really hard to plan that far ahead, given that you're still very young as well. Now, T, what were your thoughts on this story?
Well, I think it's important that we do prepare in advance, although we're pretty young still. I think because we can't only rely on the national pension, we do have to prepare in advance. But all I have right now is my insurance plan. I don't have a concrete plan for my retirement yet, but I am thinking of what to do regarding it because, like I said, national pension isn't enough. And I think it really is important to plan ahead, even though we're young, like I said. And my goal personally is to really, I haven't really thought about senior care yet, but if I had the system that would earn at least 2 million won for me, this would be in addition to my labor income. I think I'll be able to take care of myself at least, like when I become a senior. But I believe my parents, they do have already prepared for their life after retirement, whether it be senior care or just for their life after retirement. But I haven't done anything for them.
But you mentioned a really good point. I think that now a lot of millennials and Gen Z, though we might think this is a distant topic, already we're seeing a separation. We think that our parents might have their retirement plan and senior care planned out, and we should be working individually for our own. I think those two are independent concepts that we're seeing nowadays. And now we're going to switch gears to our main discussion topic of the day now. Now that it's been about a month since the year 2024 kicked off, we're going to dedicate today's episode into reading the consumption patterns of millennials and Gen Z so far. We're also going to analyze how different companies have been trying to target young people with specific marketing strategies. So Chihi, what were some key marketing strategies that we've seen throughout January so far?
Well, we've only seen this trend. Actually, we've seen this trend throughout last year as well, but I think we'll be seeing it throughout this year as well, and that's the limited edition marketing trend. I think it will remain popular among millennials and Gen Z throughout this year. This trend is not limited to just the food industry, but also other brands from other industries are taking part. And the limited edition marketing strategy is diverse, but the most commonly used methods are collaborations amongst different brands and the creation of pop-up stores. Famous brands collaborate and launch limited edition products or pop-up stores where various experiences can also be enjoyed while introducing limited edition goods that are popular among the younger generation. And some of these products include limited edition cups with the craftsman's signature, or they even had that electric bicycle that Blackpink and renowned designer Verdi collaborated on. And also famous coffee and tumbler brands collaborated to launch a new limited edition tumbler, and people would go for an open run early in the morning to purchase this item, and they would even fight to get one because they are literally limited products.
And Hyunwoo, would you agree that we're seeing exclusivity be the key word for 2024?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I see a lot of friends buying a lot of limited edition products, especially fashion related. I think the reason for that is because clothing is the easiest way to kind of show off to your friends without making it sound like you're too braggy. And we talk a lot about herd mentality here in Korea. And I think that applies to limited edition products as well, because you want products from the most popular brands, but you still want to stand out from others. So I think what makes these products even more popular and at times incredibly competitive to buy, like she mentioned, is the fact that they're limited edition. Marketing strategies with the labels limited quantities left or buy now before they're gone lure people to grab their wallets.
Exactly, and being exclusive seems to be a great tactic to lure young consumers. And personally, Hyunwoo, have you or any of your friends gotten your hands on limited edition products?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see a lot of my friends buying a lot of these limited edition products, either waiting in hours for long queues or going to resale platforms. I think the overall trend is that it's just part of the work that you put in to buy these, highly wanted products. And the gratification comes when you share it on social media for your friends to kind of show off and to envy over. And even if you're not into the whole limited edition thing yourself, I know some of my friends who buy these products just to resell them because the resale market is so huge. And I see them, it's almost as a form of investment almost, because the resale prices on these products can be tens, if not hundreds times higher than its original market price. And I can't say that I'm immune to the trend myself either, because I've bought a lot of limited edition trends or products myself, including video games where you have a lot of limited edition characters and even clothing as well. And sometimes it's even like chips almost, and everything's limited item and limited edition. But the thing is, the trend goes for about a week or two, maybe a month, and then it's like, oh, there's another limited edition product. So it's kind of useless at the end of the day, but it's just for the gratification kind of.
But I think you mentioned a great point there. I mean, though it's a very finite amount, like there is an expiration period as to how long you can be exclusive and how long you have your hands on something that's limited edition. I think your experience really encapsulates two main traits of our generation. Number one is when we buy stuff, I think we plan ahead, and during and after, it's all about that experience. You're so excited to buy this product, you do internet surfing, you go to the actual market, have fun, and then later on you can resell it, which can also be a form of investment. And the second point being, we're very economical. Though we get our hands on these pricey limited edition products, sometimes we resell it thinking it's an investment. Now, Chihi, what about you? What do you think about this limited edition marketing scheme, and have you ever fallen for it?
Well, I haven't really bought anything like this before because they're usually quite expensive, and I prefer practicality when it comes to purchasing purchasing stuff, so I don't really see the merit in them. Like Hyunwoo said, once you buy them, they may seem unique at that point, but then as time goes by, they become useless, right? However, as a fan of stationery, I would like to have some limited edition stationery items, such as a nice pen or a cool diary that reflects my taste and character. And in fact, I had a friend who collects limited edition shoes and keeps them as a way of investment, just like Hyunwoo said. He watches the price of the product increase on the internet as well, but he wouldn't resell them. I think he's just looking for the timing, but just seeing the price goes up, and he enjoys watching it. And I think those who like purchasing these limited edition goods enjoy putting in the effort to actually gaining those things that aren't common and the things that only they may have, and including the experience of going for an open run as well.
Exactly. Whether that be really high-end brand shoes or stationery, I think it really widened our perspective as to what could be limited edition. Now, why do you think we have such a tendency, though, to want to get our hands on something exclusive or limited?
Well, on the screen, we can see some figures that shed light on why consumers purchase limited edition goods. Now, according to this particular survey, the top 4 reasons are as follows. It includes some consumers buying limited edition products because they have always been interested in a certain brand or product, while others buy them to avoid regretting not buying them later. And additionally, some consumers buy limited edition goods because they match their tastes and values. This is what I said, because I like things that reflect my character and my taste. And finally, the thought of owning something that is unique and scarce gives them satisfaction as well. So I think it all boils down to the inclination of MZers to really express themselves and place value on individuality.
Yeah, and as a fellow Gen Z, Hyunwoo, why do you think our generation is so into limited edition products?
Right. Like I mentioned previously, I think it's part of the human mentality and the human instinct to want to stand out from others while wanting those popular and highly wanted products. And a product being limited edition kind of helps with that. You know that the odds of someone having the same item are low if it's a limited edition product. So in the case of very popular products, they also catch other people's attraction because they also know it's limited edition as well. And of course, there are definitely cons to this trend because these products tend to be short-lived and because new trends appear over time as well. But I also get why this trend of limited edition products are so popular nowadays, because a lot of millennials live the you only live once or YOLO lifestyle, which means you kind of have to live the moment, and getting that gratification at the moment is the most important thing.
And gratification coming from getting your hands on it and then showing it on social media. Once you display the fact that you have something limited, you get all those reactions from your friends or followers saying, how did you get your hands onto that? Now, we asked our viewers if they ever bought something that was limited edition, and if so, why? And here's what 3 of them had to share about their experience. Let's start with Leon. Leon said, I sometimes buy limited edition K-pop merch like albums because I love collecting them, and they usually have unique designs or collectibles not available in the regular edition. Although it's more expensive, I do find them worthy of my money. Tasmia said, I have limited edition products such as toys, food, online game items, etc. Whether I buy them or win through an event, it gives us collectors a sense of happiness and achievement. And Archeon said, only if I can prove something is handcrafted. Otherwise, it feels like something artificially limited for the sake of scamming money off of people. Now, to better analyze what our mentality is behind buying limited edition products and whether we'll continue to see this type of marketing trend continue out throughout the year, we're going to include an expert in our talks. Stay tuned for our live interview. We're now going to turn to Dr. Jared Watson, an assistant professor of marketing at NYU Stern School of Business. Welcome, Dr. Watson.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Dr. Watson, as we've been mentioning throughout our show today, limited edition goods seem to be the latest marketing concept that our generation in particular seems to be easily swayed by. Why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, not to start off on a sad note, but I think sadly, when you think about many of the traditional markers of success in life, like owning a home, feel much more unattainable for younger generations than they did for our parents. And so we don't have that same motivation to forego simple pleasures as our parents do. And as you all mentioned earlier, right, we have that YOLO mentality of let's go spend that money we've earned on finding things to enjoy life every moment. And so then on top of that, social media absolutely gives us this innate sort of outlet or this opportunity to get feedback from others, where owning the limited edition means we're part of the in-group, which means we get a sense of belonging with those who do own the product with us. And at the same time, we get pleasures from those who envy us because they don't own the products.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, what are the pros and cons, do you think, of being drawn to limited goods are? And could buying limited edition products actually be a good investment, as we talked about earlier?
Sure. So, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to pros. Absolutely, there's an opportunity where these limited edition goods can serve as investments, but it's not guaranteed. And so we do see in the luxury space, for instance, limited edition products tend to appreciate over time. And then on the other side of the equation, the other benefit we really get is that they can make us feel good. We get emotional or psychosocial value from having these things, right? It's a small token of success to ourselves. The flip side of it, when we think about the downside or the consequences of pursuing limited edition goods, our brands know that we're going crazy for limited edition products. So what does this mean? This means that they can price them at exorbitant rates because they know we'll pay for them. And it also means that they create artificial scarcity. So it means that they create fewer than they actually could, thereby not only increasing the cost to us from their ticket prices, but then the resale market goes out of control as well. And so even though these brands could provide us products at affordable rates and in quantities where everyone who wants it can access it, they don't actually allow us to because they're exploiting how we feel.
And that doesn't mean that the quality itself is even good. It's just that the quantity is just limited, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no relationship between the quantity and the quality. And so it's a really sad game where we don't even get the opportunity, for instance, to read product reviews or to test it out before we buy it because we know it's a race to get our hands on the product.
I see.
And Dr. Watson, is there anything to look out before buying into this limited edition marketing concept?
Sure. So this is something I've said time and time again when I've been on here, which is make sure that you want the product. Think about all of the possible outcomes and understand why exactly you're buying it. So if you are buying it as an investment, do some homework. Consider the past offerings from that brand. Have they held value over time? Have they appreciated or have they depreciated? If you're buying it because you like having something that others don't, what happens if your neighbor ends up with the product, or your best friend, or your enemy, right? How would you feel if the brand says, wow, this sold so well, we should do another run and re-release the product next month, right? So if it's no longer limited, are you still going to find value in owning that product? Make sure you consider those possible options, as we have seen products be re-released and ultimately depreciate because of that. Ultimately, there's nothing wrong with wanting limited edition products, buying limited edition products, even paying more for them than the sticker price from the retailer, as long as you are actually getting the value from it that you expect to receive.
And Dr. Watson, I have one last question for you.
Sure.
As you mentioned, one of the pros for buying limited edition products seem to be it could be an investment method, but as Tihi mentioned with her friend, I think it's really hard for us millennials and Gen Z with not enough marketing research or expertise to know when the right timing is. So could you give us a few hacks on when to find out when the perfect time is for reselling limited edition goods?
Sure. I think, one thing to consider is who are you relative to everybody else in the space? And so if you're the average person, it's just like with the stock market. When you learn some information about something that will jack up a company's stock price or it will bottom out, you're too late to actually buy if you're the average person. And so it's the same thing here. If you're really into video games and so you understand the value of that limited edition, right? Then that's the time to buy it, right? It's not when you're the person who knows nothing about video games. Same with shoes, same with handbags. Make sure that it's a space that you have more knowledge than the average customer so that you can ascertain any sort of fluctuations in the market that will give you the opportunity. And then the last thing I'll say very quickly is just think about, having multiple possible outlets. And so seeing the collaborations between brands, those are great opportunities for investment because you're going to have two pools of potential customers, right? From brand A and from brand B that want that product. And that's going to give you a better opportunity to resell it than purely having a limited product from one brand.
I see. Doing your homework seems to be key. Thank you so much, Dr. Watson. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Always. Cheers.
All right, and based on our interview with Dr. Watson just now, how would you guys like to see our consumption pattern go on from this year? And do you think that the limited edition marketing trend will continue throughout 2024?
Well, I do think this trend of limited edition items buying will continue among the younger generation. But like Dr. Watson said, I think it should they should make sure that they actually want it and not buy these items just out of the fear of missing out.
Right.
And I think it's all comes down to the characteristic, like I said, of self-expression among the younger generation, as well as the concept of sohwakkeng, which is to find certain happiness in small things, although these may not always be small items, right?
And I also think that we shouldn't try to fill in the vacancy we have in our hearts just to express ourselves. I mean, if you really want it for the purpose of wanting it, and if you did enough research, I do agree to putting a lot of money, because that could be either investing for yourself for the future, but at the same time, if you're doing it just for the sake of missing out, the fear of missing out, or you have a vacancy in your heart you want to fill in, that might not be the most right way or economical way to go. What were your thoughts on that?
I think Dr. Watson kind of hit the nail in the coffin. You need to get what you actually want,
exactly.
And if you're actually trying to get an investment off it, see the value in the product. I think those are really good ideas, and I feel like after that interview, I'm going to have to kind of reflect on my purchase decisions after I get home. But I do think the limited edition buying trend is going to kind of stay for a while, especially because as long as they stay what they're meant to be, and that is limited edition. I think customers, of course, will get tired if they see limited edition after limited edition, especially when they know that, hey, another limited edition is going to come out in another few weeks or so. So right now, I do think that these products are here to stay because we do see a lot of high demand and high quality products that are coming out of these products.
That's the way the market works. But I think throughout today's episode, we learned that just because it's limited doesn't mean that you'll become exclusive. And also, you should only buy what you really want, given the fact that it's only about quantity, not quality. And trying to prioritize the latter could be a smart way for you to consume this year. Now, in the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choi Ji-hee.
Thank you.
And Jo Young-woo.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
웰컴. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?